Mm-hmm.
So how was your haunted house this month?
Oh, it was good.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had a good season.
Good.
Yeah, and our last night was unexpectedly busy.
Yeah,
we had at least a couple thousand people through the door.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was constantly taking tickets at the haunted house and bringing them in. It was pretty constant work from 7:30 all the way on to 12:30.
Now, to tie this into what we're talking today, would you say people are pretty entertained by spooks, spirits, and unusual occurrences?
Most definitely, even if they're not believers.
Yeah, not believers.
You know, even they're nonists like myself, who enjoy a good scare. You know, I mean, the usual people who make the rounds. They're hardcores that go around to every single event during the season and try out each and every hayride, haunted house. You know, real carpetbaggers.
Yeah.
You know, real bears for punishment, some of them. And that go for the hard scares. And people get they come to us for a break from that, though, it seems.
Oh.
We get a lot of worried people. They come up to me in the ticket line. I know that they, you know, by the expression on their faces, they're approaching things with a little bit of trepidation. And then I have to reassure them once I get them into the porch in front of the portal. That is the entrance to the Devil's Den, which is the name of the haunted house at Demon Acres.
Okay.
And just to clarify things, there are three major spots at Demon Acres. There's the Hayride, which is the most popular, the Jailbreak, and then the Demon's Den.
Okay.
People can buy combo tickets. People can get single tickets. There's general admission and express fear, which puts you at the front of the line. There's separate lines for express fear. And these people, sometimes they need to be reassured before I let them go. That there are no carry-offs.
Right.
No extreme scares, nothing like that. So I think that's another one of the things that makes Demon Acres so popular, is that we don't do extreme scares.
So, like I said, going back to what we're going to be talking about today, Prime Appropriate, people like the unusual. People like to be kind of scared. People want to see what's beyond the veil, in other words, correct? Even if they know even if they're in on it.
Well, in a way, they're looking for proof.
Yeah.
You know, of the supernatural. I don't think you're going to find it at a haunted house. But, you know, unless there's a house that's legitimate haunted.
Right.
I've yet to find one.
Oh. So we're going to talk about it. It's the start of season 3.
Yes, good day and welcome to season 3.
If everything goes well, this should be uploaded a day before Halloween. And we should be ready to go in just a moment here. So Lloyd is fast asleep, and he's overseeing our production as well as the cat will. Welcome to Unearthly Upstate. I'm Mari.
And as per usual, I'm Matthew.
And today we are going to talk about the Fox Sisters. Famous mediums, actually. Before we get into that, I'm going to do some housekeeping. Again, I gotta get a shout out to Abby Lloyd. She's involved in a lot of... she's involved in the Monster Among Us fan Facebook group. She's in the Kryptonaut Facebook group. She's kind of well known among these fan groups, and she has been very, very good at helping us reach our audience through her Wednesday wares and that. So, Abby, thank you. I'm going to give her a big thank you.
Thank you very much, Abby.
So that's my shout out. Now, we still have Patreon going. You've heard last 3 weeks were Patreon episodes we put up. As you can tell, they're not your typical thing, but we have fun with them. And our plans this season, we're starting with the Fox Sisters. I think we've got, what are some of the other things we've got planned? There's a murder mystery.
Yes, we have a murder mystery. Without giving away too many spoilers.
Right.
Don't give too much away. That's why we're struggling a little bit to inform you what's coming up.
There is a nice ghost story that's coming up. He's a very sweet ghost. Mm-hmm. He's coming up. Those are the only two I can think of on the top of my head. My brain is kind of fried. I've been working on some.
And don't we have a few historical sites, of course?
Oh, we'll always have historical sites. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, and the stories behind them.
So we're going to talk about the Fox Sisters, but first I got to give some definitions out.
Yeah, okay.
First off is spiritualism. Now, you may have heard about spiritualism, might not know exactly what spiritualism is.
Absolutely.
I also have to, let me back up. Because spiritualism came about the same time a few other religions came about in upstate New York. And I'm going to be typing here, so please forgive me. In what was called the Burned Over District.
Now that's not burn over district, burned over.
Burned over district.
That's burned over.
And the Burned Over District, if you go into Wikipedia, they got a good map of it. It's a little bit of central New York and a lot of western New York.
You might say all of western New York.
Almost all of it. Rochester over to Pennsylvania and the Great Lakes there. But it comes from, it was a term coined by Charles Grayson Finney, who in his 1876 book referred to the Burned District as an area during the Second Great Awakening. Now, this is Second Great Religious Awakening in the United States. Mm-hmm. I found that region of the country would be called a burnt district. There had been a few years previously a wild excitement passing through that region, in which a revival of religion, which turned out to be spurious. But here's the interesting thing. This wave of mostly Protestant religions, a lot of them do have a lot of Christian basis. Some people might not think spiritualism is, but where it came from, there is a Christian background to it. Mm-hmm. It also was these same people who were brought up in this fever. A lot of them became abolitionists. A lot of them started working in the women's suffrage movement. Mm-hmm. A lot of them were starting social experiences like the Oneida Colony, which some people may be familiar with. Grandma's silverware may have been made at the Oneida Colony. Okay. So, and this happened in the early 19th century. I can't find the exact date. But to give you examples of what came out of there, we have the Mormons. Mm-hmm. Palmyra is where Mormonism started. Yeah. And I don't need to go into much explanation of that. If you need explanation, that might show up at your door. You can talk to them then, or just contact your local Mormon church, and I'm sure they'll be glad to talk to you about it. Yeah.
Have you heard about Jesus?
The Millerites came from that area as well. He preached that it was started by William Miller, who preached that the second coming would occur on October 22nd, 1844. It became very popular in Western New York. Some of his beliefs went into the Seventh-day Adventists, and that not everything. I mean, we know a couple Seventh-day Adventists, and they're not really into the end times like a lot of other people are. So
they're not really.
So that part of that didn't get into it.
They're not really staunch believers either. They're not really staunch practitioners either.
Right.
Like shunning film and television and radio, that sort of thing.
Jehovah's Witnesses came out from this as well. The Shakers were very active in this time, as the Oneida Society, which I mentioned earlier. And a social gospel founded right near where we live, actually. And I'm not quite sure what social gospel is, but just here in my notes. I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Here it is. It's a Protestantism that applied Christian ethics to social problems, especially economic inequality, poverty, alcoholism, crime, racial tension, slums, etc., etc., etc. Okay. This all comes out of this part of New York. In the early 1980s. Okay.
What was that social one?
Social Gospel.
Social Gospel.
Yeah, it was founded by Washington Gladden when he was living near Oswego, New York. Well, that may have to go into our file for next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, There's a lot of social, religious, it's quite the time, you know. You had radical Quakers go in, and I gotta say, everything that seemed to be, the one thing that seemed to combine them all was the social aspect of it. In other words, they were abolitionists. Like I said, there are a lot of women's suffrage people were into these things. So in Hydesville, New York, which Hydesville doesn't exist anymore, by the way.
Oh, what happened?
Well,
died.
we went through there. It got absorbed into that other town. Remember?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You can still find this place. We've actually been there, where we're going to talk about where these events started. So the Fox family moves to Hydesville, New York, into a house that was already reputed to be haunted. Okay. Everyone but the oldest sister, Leah. Leah married in 1845. She was only 14, but she was already married, started her own life. And
Don't judge, folks. It was a different world.
Yes. But her husband left her in 1847. At the same time, the rest of her family moves into this house in Hydesville. There were rumors that it was haunted because this peddler had been killed and buried in their basement prior to the family moving in. Okay. Well, in 1848, Mom starts hearing noises. She starts hearing things like, you know, on the steps. She starts hearing knocking. She starts hearing like clicks and that, and it's freaking her out. It always happens after her other two daughters, who are named Maggie and Katie, go to bed. These noises start out.
Right.
Okay. Well, March 31st, 1848, these noises get very loud. Mom is freaking out. And then the girls start talking to whatever is creating these noises. And they start talking to Mr. Splitfoot.
Ooh, which is another name for the devil.
Exactly. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
Mom is losing her mind at this point. She's already convinced the house is haunted. And now she's hearing her daughters talk to Mr. Splitfoot.
Wow.
The next day, April 1st, she asks her girls about it. And they're like, we don't know, Mom. There are all these rappings, you know. And even Maggie says, yeah. And it all happened on April Fool's Day.
Mom didn't pick up on the cue.
No, Mom did not. Mom was too flipped out. She calls her neighbors.
Oh, boy.
And they're like, oh, God, you know, the Mrs. Fox, what is she doing? You know, it's April Fools. Girls are playing a joke on them. Come on. Well, they walk in there, and the girls are looking at them like they're terrified. They look horrible. And now the neighbors are convinced something really happened. Now, whether the girls were play acting at that point, or they were terrified that the neighbors are going to find out, I don't know. But it was the look on their faces that convinced the neighbors that this might be real. And now people start coming over every night. They want to hear the rappings. They hear the talking to Mr. Splitfoot. There's an audience there. And it gets to the point that following Saturday, April 8th, they go into their basement, the neighbors and Mr. and Mrs. Fox go into the basement and start looking for that body that peddler had been buried in. They don't find it. They don't find it.
Now, was this the same house we visited? That was the
Yes.
only the foundation was left?
Yes, you can still see this house.
Oh, okay. It's kind of a house within a house.
They've built a protective building around it, but it's a lot of windows so you can see in and you can see the foundation. They have a model of the house so you get an idea of what you're looking at. A lot of good information about the place. And it really is not that impressive of a house, I gotta say that. It's very functional of a little house. But as for the peddler, nope, they never. Bones were found later, but they've never been proven to be
weren't
human.
They like? Oh yeah, I heard they were like an animal's bones.
Yeah, some people thought they were like a deer or something, but they've never been proven to be human. That Sunday, August 9th, the Fox family was asked to leave the congregation.
Oh.
because of all this turmoil going on.
They didn't want any of the tumult come from the house coming down onto the parish.
Exactly.
So
here comes Leah, who's been living in Rochester. Her husband just left her. She's 15 years old. Hey, Mom, Dad, why doesn't Maggie and Katie come live with me?
Right, okay.
So they go move to Rochester. They get away from this issue with the house in Hydesdale.
Little House on the Scary.
Yeah. And they go to live with their sister Lee, who introduces them to Isaac and Amy Post, who are friends of the Fox family. They're also radical Quakers, heavily involved in the suffragette movement.
Post. They're Quakers.
Yeah.
Did they
make
oaths?
So you're going to that?
Yeah, but it was irresistible.
They were also reading a lot of things by a man named Swedenborg and another man named Andrew Jackson Davis. And these two guys, I would say, founded the philosophy of spiritualism. Okay. Swedenborg was an inventor and a scientist, but in 1741 he started having what he called visions, in which he claimed that God had been called to him to reform Christianity. The other person named is Andrew Jackson Davis. He was a mesmerizer. Now, mesmer was...
hypnotist.
It's basically a hypnotist, but it's also where we get the term animal magnetism.
Oh.
It was a theory put first by a German doctor named Franz Mesmer. And he believed it to be a natural force in all living things. He believed this force could have physical effects, include healing, and he tried, but without success, to achieve scientific recognition of his ideas. I think this is where you get
Well, there's no way to get scientific empirical data on something that's non-corporeal.
Right. But, there's the aura...
So how can you claim to be a scientist?
Well, the Russian scientists in the 1940s started taking pictures of people's auras. And
yeah. Well,
and that's supposed to be related to this as well.
Didn't that lead into like magnetic resonance imaging or something like that?
It looks very similar. It's kind of cool. I mean, they come up with cool effects. I don't know if it proves anything. No. But the stuff looks really cool. I mean, I gotta admit that.
It's great and wows the crowd. Well, that's all you need.
Yeah.
P.T. Barnum style.
And then, of course, there's Andrew Jackson Davis, who practiced hypnotism. He was also a psychic. Well, they didn't call him psychics at the time. He was a medium. And his 1847 book had just come out the year before, and it was The Principles of Nature, Her Divine Revelations, and Voice to Mankind. Between Swedenborg and Davis, the Posts were reading these books. They meet these girls, who are already friends of the family, who were talking to spirits, and they embrace this. They get...
Now, which Post was this again?
Isaac and Amy Post.
Okay.
They sit down and can try to convince the girls it's real. Now, I gotta give Maggie a shout out here. Maggie, through the entire time, remember, she said, Mom, it's April Fool's. She always was the one who insisted it wasn't real.
Okay, yeah, she was the one who originally had trepidations about pulling the wool over people's eyes.
She didn't want to do that.
Using spiritualism, spiritual things and ghosts and stuff to pull the wool over people's eyes didn't set well with Maggie.
She did not set well. I mean, when they were doing it for fun and people weren't paying for it, she was okay because it was an entertainment. But now they wanted them to do it for crowds and to collect money. And it started to set wrong with her at the time. Maybe she's a young girl. I mean, she's...
Well, it doesn't matter. If something feels like bullshit when you're a kid...
it's bullshit. Yeah. But they sit down, Leah and the Post sit down with her and convince her it's real. Well, you may think it's entertainment, but it's really happening. And we got to get it out. In order to get it out, we're going to have to put these shows on. In order to fund the shows, we're going to have to charge people. This type of logic.
If this, then we need to do that. Okay, it sounds intuitive, but it's completely counterintuitive.
Right.
Because you're trying to take people's money away to have a conversation with your grandmother with a dark shade over it. The whole thing, the wrappings and the whatnot. And
so keep this in mind. And
dishonest.
Maggie at the beginning was like, "Hello, I was dragging an apple with a string on it across the floor." That was but people didn't want to hear it. Oh, she's a little girl. What is she talking about? Now, I'm not too sure if Katie was fully in on it or not, But Maggie and Katie became the stars of the show, basically. And the first public performance was on November 14th, 1849. It was in Rochester, in the Corinthian Hall, and they did their performance. And how do you think it turned out?
Well, I think it led into more success.
Yeah, but this first show, think about it. How do you think the public reacted to it?
Well, I think much of them would react with skepticism.
It was beyond skepticism. You're talking boos, things thrown on stage.
Oh, well, that's just uncalled for.
It was bad. I mean, but it's showbiz. What do they say about showbiz? There's no bad publicity.
It's the business of show. Somebody's going to catch on to it.
The first night, the audience just was not buying it. They were
having none of it.
And you've seen movies that do an accurate portrayal of Victorian theater. Can you just imagine what these girls were going through?
Oh my goodness.
The audience would scream and yell and, throw things. And in fact, the second night...
F off back to Flatbush.
The second night, stagehands found tar being snuck in by some of the paying members of the public. They were going to tar in front of these girls.
Oh, well, that's murder.
Oh, okay. The girls were examined, found nothing. Okay, and then it stopped. I mean, after the tar was the third night. I'm sorry. They stopped at the third night. But newspaper articles were written about this. And it got spread. And people were like, how cruel was this audience to these little girls?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these skeptical people were being drowned out by everybody who wanted to see the Fox Sisters.
Mm-hmm. They found a following.
They found a following, yes.
And which newspapers constantly, portrayed the Fox Sisters as legitimate?
I remember I had the guy's name down. I can't remember it. Was it Greeley? Greeley?
Now that's something for you listeners to look up.
I believe it was Greeley. He was, let me check here. I'm checking my notes. Yep, Horace Greeley. Greeley was, he went and saw one of the shows, and he kind of protected him. And he also was a major newspaper pioneer. And, they did attract a lot of famous people. I'll just give you a couple names here. James Fenimore Cooper, Nathaniel Parker Willis, Horace Greeley, Sojourner Truth.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. They got people to come and see them.
And spiritualism, then, you want to protract this further into the 20th century. Spiritualism touched the lives and influenced people such as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and, and Houdini.
Yes. But it was Greeley who was in publishing. He was also a politician. He kind of took them under their wings, and he was one of the people that really kind of put them into the spotlight. Now, I think P.T. Barnum, but I think he was a little later.
Yeah.
He also got involved.
Probably as a philanthropist. Sucker born every minute. And Houdini, of course, was
Houdini,
a detractor. He was
later. He
rightfully debunked a lot of these
much
people
later.
who were
but right now
taking advantage of
we're
people
just talking
for
about the beginnings
gain.
of it. In 1850, they toured New York State, and remember I mentioned Andrew Jackson Davis, who had wrote that book. He gave them his seal of approval. So people who were followers of Davis suddenly were like, these Fox Sisters are legit. Well, also at this time, you start having other mediums appear.
That's how you become a successful YouTuber. You snag somebody with a large following.
Right.
And then they say, hey, this one's great. Go over here and check this out.
Yeah.
And you suddenly find yourself with a couple thousand followers.
And you could say this was what was happening to them at that time. They were getting a lot of famous people back in the
If the Fox Sisters were YouTubers nowadays, they would definitely have, some kind of a following. They
would probably have, what's that guy's name? Cutie Pie Pie, whatever his name is.
Cutie
Pie, whatever his name is. Yeah, they would be up by his level,
Yeah, exactly. A couple million viewers. Yeah, exactly. And being able to live off of the monetization of their stuff.
They would not be YouTubers. They would be Instagram influencers.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And stay on BitChute.
Yeah.
Stay off YouTube if you want to remain monetized.
Now, so Maggie at this point, I'm doing quick math, was 17 years old. It's 1850. All right. They're getting big. Other mediums are appearing who have showier shows. the main thrust of spiritualism is, I think we kind of mentioned it, but we never talked about what spiritual really things is. But they basically believe that humans, along with all living beings, are basically immortal spirits, and disembodied spirits, through passive or active mediumship, have influence into the physical world. And spiritualism also supported evolution, was kind of interesting. Although there was a split about that. It's just, I'm not going to go into it. If you want to read about the split with evolution and spiritualism, it's kind of an interesting little thing. But basically it was, you would go to these mediums to talk to the disembodied spirits to get guidance in your life. But yet, you got to understand, some of the spirits would be malevolent, some of them would be benevolent. And the Fox Sisters always seem to have benevolent ones. So, now, we have seen a picture of this. We haven't seen the actual item. But in the Rochester Historical Society, they have a table that the Fox Sisters used. Pretty obvious. It's to make noise, and it's to be manipulated by someone sitting next to it. If you've ever seen, like, debunkers who go into these seance things, a lot of noise and things are done under, like, they would wear very long dresses, and the noises would come out from under the dresses. So
cracking the knuckles.
They're
very, very practiced at cracking their knuckles and their toes.
Yes.
To make sharp sounds. And
here's the interesting thing: even though they're very popular and people are believing them and they're paying for their shows and
absolutely
people are following them and really falling in love with the Fox Sisters, there are still skeptics who check their shows out and are like, no, these girls, they're fooling everybody. And like I said, Maggie, through the whole time, did not like this idea that they were having people pay for it. I think she didn't mind the entertainment part. You could still go and see stage magicians who do these types of seances.
Oh, yeah.
But you're kind of in on it. And I think that's how Maggie viewed it. Yeah. I think that's how Maggie viewed it, as a way to, keep people entertained. It really wasn't a way to... She didn't want to fleece money off people. But Leah needed money. She was now, a spinster. Okay.
At 17.
At 17.
Well, life was short back. Well, shorter than it is nowadays.
Well, Lee remarries in 1851, and in and that's the same year, Kate and Maggie go cross country.
Okay.
And they even later on went into Europe. But that was after Kate meets Arctic explorer Eliza Kane. Now, he was a devout Catholic. He wanted to marry her. He was very skeptical of what the sisters could do, right? And he even came out and said to him directly, this is all made up, right?
This is crap, right, girl?
Yeah, and Maggie was like, yeah, you're right. Oh, by the way, I love you too. I'm going to go take communion and become a Catholic, which is what she did.
Exactly what she did.
She became a Catholic and married him. Okay. And for a while there, she didn't tour with him because he asked her not to tour while that was going on.
Well, pretending, I can tell you, as a person who grew up a Catholic and spent some of his young adult life as a Catholic, Catholics frown upon people who lie about ghosts.
Right.
And things like that. And spirit, and supernatural phenomena.
Exactly.
That's to be left up to the experts.
Right. I forget now. Let me check real quick. I believe Margaret later on did say that part of the reason she had trouble with it was, remember I said they were trying to find this murdered body. Well, if there's a murdered body, there has to be a murderer, right? Well, eventually the people in Halesout did find this poor man and basically accused him of committing this murder, which there was no proof of murder even had happened. He was shunned and looked upon the whole community as a murderer. This guy did nothing wrong, but they picked on him. They shunned him. Thank God that's all they did. They could have done something far, far worse. There was no body. There was no murder. And this poor guy's life was ruined because of these rumors. It's horrible. Let me give you some of the people that were skeptical. We had Reverend Chauncey Burr. He actually wrote in the New York Tribune that he was pretty sure it was the cracking of the toe joints that caused it. 3 investigators, August Flint, Charles Lee, and C.B. Coventry from the University of Buffalo, also examined them and were pretty sure that they were made by cracking joints. And they did a control thing where they made the sisters sit on cushions with their feet on cushions, and they couldn't hear the rappings anymore. And which kills me, I always say, when you get a good showman medium, that's who they go, oh, something's not right in ether. I can't make a connection.
Right, yeah. You got to think on your feet as a good charlatan.
The documentary with James Randi when he went over to Russia and he was talking...
The Amazing Randi?
Yeah, The Amazing Randi. Yeah. And he was talking to the two Russian psychics and he gave them a picture of David Berkowitz.
Oh.
No, not David Berkowitz.
I can't remember who that is.
Ramirez. He gives them a picture of Ramirez. And they're going off and he's not giving them anything. He's stone-faced. He's not giving them a chance to use any cold reading because, well, he's a stage magician. He knows what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And they're making complaints that they really can't feel anything. They don't know what's really going on. But then they come up, just by the photograph, they come up with how successful this guy was. He's loved by millions. And he must be a very good guy. And then he lets it drop. No, he's a serial killer, blah, blah. Oh, wait, no, the spirits are now telling me.
BS.
This is what the Fox Sisters now are up against. Because more mediums started coming out. All right. So, in 1857, just like James Randi also has his own prize. He has, I think, $1 million out. If any medium can prove to him it's real, they'll give him $1 million. And no one's been able to do it. Well, in 1857, the Boston Courier had a $500 prize. The Fox Sisters tried and did not get the money.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
an early version of The Amazing Randi offering the $1 million
pretty much, yeah,
to whoever is talented in contacting the spirit world to come before him in a public forum and demonstrate their supernatural legerdemain and win the money.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Yep.
And they could not do it. The Amazing Randi, by the way, is still $1 million richer.
Yep.
Because nobody has been able to win that money yet.
Now, in 1888, Margaret publicly and very dramatically, she went on stage. Mm-hmm. Katie and Lee were in the audience, and she's like, it was an apple on a string. Mm-hmm. We did this as a joke on Mom, because she really believed the place was haunted.
Started way back in 1848. Or whenever it was. Like 1850?
1847.
1847. Okay. I wasn't far off then.
No.
Sometime during the American and Mexican War.
Yeah. So, and she demonstrated how they made the noises. She demonstrated how they talked to and of course this causes a big rift between her and Leah. I don't know if her and Katie really had a rift, because I'm wondering, I never got much information about how Katie felt about this.
Yeah.
But what brought this about? They all had started falling into very hard times.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Like I said, there were more showy mediums coming out. Let's see, this is 1888, after the Civil War. Yeah, I would think spiritual photography is coming out, where you have the ectoplasm photos, where they would have ghosts behind you. You go get your picture taken and a ghost appears behind you, things of that nature. So these three sisters who would talk to Mr. Splitfoot are no longer exciting. So they're falling on hard times.
Okay. Yeah, their 15 minutes of fame is winding down. And by the way, folks, yes, I was correct. The Mexican-American War ran from April 25th, 1846, officially, to February 2nd, 1848.
Well, the reason Maggie came out, and this is a reason why some people who are ardent believers in the Fox Sisters to this day think she was forced to make this confession.
Oh, really?
I'm going to read this to you. This is from The Sun, May 5th, 1888. Now, she came out later that year, in 1888, with the big confession. This is her and Katie are now living in New York. They're not doing too hot. They both have succumbed to alcoholism.
And child abuse.
Well, we're getting there. Okay. This is the newspaper article that appeared, like I said, May 5th in The Sun. Communication with real spirits. And the plight to which has befallen one of the famous Fox Sisters. One of the famous Fox Sisters, spiritualistic mediums, was before Judge Gorman in Harlem court yesterday on a charge of neglecting her children.
In court in Harlem. Okay, not a good way to start.
Well, the fame of the Fox Sisters was at height, and they were traveling in England. Kate married a man named Jenkins. The two had a child. Okay, so this is Kate. I'm sorry. So I was like, oh, wait. Kate married a man named Jenkins. They had 2 children, Purdy and Henry, now aged 13 and 12. When Mr. Jenkins died, the mother dissipated, and for a short time she'd been living in 138 East 84th Street, where she did spiritual business. But eventually a little profit, for then she took on what other work she could secure. A good deal of her time and money was spent drinking, and neighbors finally informed the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children to the circumstances. An agent was sent to investigate, and on the strength of his report, the boys were sent to the juvenile asylum. We mentioned that place when we talked about Letchworth. And the mother arrested for neglect. She said in court that Mr. Luther R. Marsh had called upon her several times until her counsel, Mr. H. Townsend, advised her to receive him, and thereafter Mr. Marsh discontinued his visits. She was careful to state that this is not the Townsend who is engaged in the defense of Miss DeBars. Townsend is a patent lawyer with an office at D. Beckman Street, and for 2 weeks has been ill in his home. His partner said yesterday that Mr. Townsend has never took criminal cases of any kind and was not interested in spiritualists or mediums, and he was sure that Miss Jenkins had been fibbing. She's held for trial in a cell in default of bail. So, in October 21st, 1888, this is where she lets loose about what really was going on.
Okay. Well, at least she wasn't sent to Rikers.
No, but she was paid to do this bombshell. And Margaret was the one who let the bombshell out, but Kate was the one in dire straits. So I'm thinking she did it because she had to help her sister out. Now, if you want some good news, Kate was found not to be a neglect of her children. She did go to trial, and they found no evidence that she neglected her children. They both were drinkers at the time, so there might have been some neglect, I'm not going to say. But in the court of law, she was found to be a fit mother. Okay, so there is something like that. But Margaret comes out and says things of this nature. It was my sister Kate and myself were very young children when this horrible deception began. I was 8 and just a year and a half older than she. We were very mischievous, and we wanted to terrify our dear mother, who was a very good woman and very easily frightened. At night we went to bed. We would use an apple to a string and move the string up and down, causing the apple to bump on the floor. Or we would drop the apple on the floor, making strange noise every time it rebounded. My mother listened to this for a time, and she could not understand it and did not suspect it was us being capable of a trick because we were so young.
Well, that apple must have turned to sauce by the time they were done with it.
Her eldest sister was 23 years of age. That's got to be a mistake there. 23 of age? Because I figured out she was 14 by my reckoning. But she was in Rochester when these tricks began, but came to Hydesdale in Central New York where we lived. And shortly after, my mother and father were very good, honest people and great friends with the Hyde family from whom the village was named and who lived near. They took a great fancy to us and were especially favorites of the Hydes. But before and after the variety of our rappings became widespread, all the people around us, as I've said, called in to witness these manifestations. My sister, now Mrs. Daniel Underhill, she was Mrs. Fish then, began to form a society of spiritualists. There were so many people coming to the house that we were not able to make use of the apple trick except when we were in bed and the room was dark. And even then we could hardly do so. The only way was to rap on the bedstead. And this is the way it began. First as a mere trick to frighten Mother, and then when so many people came to see us children, we were frightened ourselves and kept it up. We were taken by Mrs. Underhill to Rochester, and there it was discovered how to make other raps. My sister Kate was the first one to discover that by swishing her fingers, she could produce a certain noise with her knuckles and joints. And that same effect could be made with the toes. Finding that we could make raps with our feet, first with one foot and then both, we practiced until we could do this easily when the room was dark. No one suspected any trick because we were such young children, and we were led on by my sister purposely and my mother unintentionally, and we often heard her say, "Is this a disembodied spirit that has taken possession of my dear children?"
Wow. Well, with all this talk about raps and knuckle cracking and everything, you'd think an adult would catch on.
Some did. I mean, some were susceptible.
But no, I'm talking about their mom.
Remember I said the neighbors first came over and they're thinking it's a joke. It's April Fool's.
I can't believe that she was that gullible.
And they took one look at the kids who were scared of being found out, and they thought, oh my God, something horrible did happen.
Oh.
That's how this all started.
Oh, wow.
And then they get caught up in it, and they're too scared
and it grows,
stop.
and it develops a life of its own.
Exactly.
And they get carried away with it. Their entire lives carried away.
And then later on, they become alcoholic. It's a horrendous story. It really is. It's kind of a sad story, really. It is. I mean, and then they, all faded into obscurity, sort of, and we all remember the Fox Sisters, the founders of the spiritual movement. Technically, they weren't founders, but they're always listed up there as one of the founders.
They're poster children for spiritualism, basically.
Poster children, yeah. Now, well, you might think, well, why are we talking about this on Halloween? This stuff's old. We still have Lilydale in New York, the town founded on spiritualism.
Yeah.
You cannot move into Lilydale unless you can prove you can do some sort of mediumship.
No, really? No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
We know tarot cards readers who do it for a living. Yeah. I was just recently at a wonderful place, the place called, I went to a lovely fundraiser called the Witch's Ball.
And who puts that on?
And that was on the Zonta Club out of Oswego.
There's a shout out to the Zonta Club.
Yes, shout out to the Zonta Club. And guess what? Going into the ball, we had tarot card readers, we had crystal readers, feather readers. That was a new one for me. I've never heard of feather reading, but she had this beautiful table lined with feathers.
Feather readers. Feathers. How about bones? Anybody actually reading bones?
Didn't do bones, but we had a lady who did stones, and I looked at what she was doing. It was very similar to rune readings, except there was nothing on the stones.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of interesting. It was where they landed on her thing.
Right, okay.
We had a lot of people selling metaphysical jewelry and things like that. So the stuff still goes on. And I'm like, and like I said, we have friends who do tarot card readers. We messed around with reading tarots and reading runes and all this. And my theory about all that, the reading the runes, doing the feathers and all that, even, as I've, figured out how things are done, part of me still thinks it's legit in this respect. There are a lot of things that subconsciously your body's trying to get you to do. Mm-hmm. Say you're really worried about something, and you're trying to not think about what you're worried about. There are going to be certain physical clues for physical things that are going to happen.
Absolutely.
And a good tarot card reader, good palmist and all that, they're all very good at cold reading. Even if they don't realize they're good at cold reading.
Right.
They'll pick up these little physical clues and be able to get things out of you.
I think that those are the people that make the best practitioners of this sort of display. People who are the cold readers, the really good cold readers.
Do I think that makes them frauds?
Pick up on social cues.
No, I do not think that makes them frauds. I think that makes them very good at reading people. And some of them are very good to get things out of you that need to get out. Like I said, say you got this worry, you try not to think about it, but it's something you've got to take care of, and you go to a tarot reader and they go, hey, you've got a big decision coming up, don't you?
But it's all general
But
things.
it gets
there are no specifics. Having done tarot cards for people myself, I know it's just generalities and archetypes, archetypal divination.
I'm going back to Communications 101 here.
All right.
Everyone has filters. Mm-hmm. Anything that comes to you, and I cannot remember the names of it, but there's levels of filters that everything that you see, hear, whatever, hits you. You could say to me, you have a big decision coming up. I'm going to interpret that differently than, let's say, the next person you say, oh, do you have a big decision coming up? Because our filters are there. And it goes with that subconscious thing.
Right.
So you might get somebody who's got that heavy weight in their head, this big decision, and they're going to hear you say that, and they're really going to think, oh my God, this guy knows me.
Well, I already know as a tarot reader that people are coming to me looking for answers.
For something.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they're in crisis. Yeah. In some way, at some level.
And by the way, the Tower, Death, are not horrible cards.
Well, actually,
the Tower is. Yeah.
The Tower is.
But the Death card is not.
But the Death card is not. It's not. The Death card is an indication of a change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you see that in movies and they put down the Death card dramatically, and everybody's like, oh, it's bullshit. Sorry, that's my one per show. But if it's the Tower card.
Yeah, the Tower struck by lightning.
Yeah, then get worried. Worse. And I think I've only seen that in a couple movies where the tarot card's put down.
Exactly.
So whoever wrote that did their study.
In a Doctor Who episode, there was an old charwoman who was one of the main characters in the narrative, and she was doing tarot cards, and she's like, "Oh, I got the tower struck by lightning," and because now she knows that something bad's coming to Little Hudcombe, It's a Tom Baker episode. Okay, it was about the Fendal and the worms that would come out, and the huge.
I gotta tell you, I'm too old for this. That was her, right? Yes.
Well, John, I gotta tell you, one of these days, I'm gonna be too old for this sort of thing.
Yep.
She's got to be an octogenarian.
Yep. And her son John was very protective of her. Yep. I remember that episode now. But going back to the Fox sisters, they got caught up. And there are people today who still believe, who've never actually seen them perform, that there's no way they could have faked it. Margaret came out because Kate needed the money because she had legal troubles. And that's why they were forced to say this, because apparently Maggie recanted a few years later, but I couldn't find anything in my research that she recanted. Mm-hmm. And I feel sorry for them. I mean, they were kind of thrust into this. But at the same token, what harm did they actually do to people who came to them? Remember, Houdini went after...
They're harmless. These charlatans, they're by and large harmless. Yeah. All they really are is just putting on a show.
Houdini really went after the ones that were harming people.
Yeah, people who are really using that angle of spiritualism as a way to enrich and gain power.
And they were pre-Houdini, so he probably would have investigated them too. But the thing is, he went after the ones who really were harming people, who were fleecing people. Yeah, and yeah, they were charging, but they ended up living in squalor.
Yeah, no kidding.
Becoming alcoholics. So where did that money go?
Exactly. I got pissed away somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, Houdini, oh my goodness sakes. Just a private conversation with Maggie and Houdini would have had the whole...
Oh gosh, she would have told everything.
Spiel on
she could have showed him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she showed everybody in that big display. This is how we did it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there are people nowadays, and one person I watched on YouTube was arguing that there was no way they could have faked it because the noises would just echo throughout the theaters. You've worked in theater.
Oh, yeah. If it's a well-built theater, if the architects of the theater have done their job, you can hear a whisper.
Yeah.
To the back wall of the house from the stage.
Like when we went to the Genesee County Museum, we went upstairs. It was an old opera house, and they had the theater up there.
Yeah.
Small little thing. I'm standing way in the back, and you're up there barely.
Just whispering.
I could hear them.
And you can, I whispered a few lines from something, and you were able to hear it. I would love to be in a production in that theater. Yeah. That would be wonderful.
So, like I said, if the theater designed well, you could make a small noise, and it would echo.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that to me is a mute argument. Like I said, I don't think they were set out to be frauds. I think they got caught up in this whole thing.
Exactly. Like I said, it developed a life of its own, and they got caught up in it.
Yeah.
And there were people like the Posts.
Like their older sister.
That were looking to maybe enrich themselves off of this. Mm-hmm. Oh, finally we found a use for the twins. That kind of thing.
And they also... I mean, and
if
look at the
grown up in a large family, you know how that is.
And spiritualism, again, was a very positive social movement, too, the things that they really supported. Like I said, there was that really weird rift when it came to evolution. You had two groups of thought about evolution. They both were in support of evolution. But one viewed it as more of a spiritual thing, and the other viewed about, no, the scientific one is actually proving some of our points. It's a strange little rift. It really is.
Interesting how people from the spiritual realm try to bring science into it in an attempt to justify their views.
Right.
Okay, maybe it wasn't 7 days, but 7 million years that God took to,
I remember that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So they just condensed it down to 7 days, not 7 million. Yeah.
So your final thoughts on the Fox sisters? We do have to wrap up.
I think it started out as fun-loving and playful children, and I think they enjoyed pulling one over on Mom because she sounds a bit gullible. Let's face it, this is the 1840s, and there's precious little entertainment, and so you're going to go for it. I know from living up on the ranch in northwest Wisconsin in the 80s that there's very little to do. And the only people you have to interact with while you're living in a gravel dead end in northwest Wisconsin are your family members. And it's kind of strange that, well, this is the only place where you can carry on the kind of lifestyle you want to. And that was my parents. And they wanted that kind of lifestyle where they were away from the urban centers. And having lived in the urban centers, I understand how they feel.
Yeah.
All right. And, the Fox sisters come into this isolated situation from where they were living. Where were they living previously?
I can't remember. I don't think I have my notes either.
Anyway, maybe it was a town. And they go to this house. And having visited the house, I know how isolated it is. It's just at this crossroads.
Yeah.
And
it is
nothing
still
else.
It is still pretty deep in the rural area.
Yes, it is very broadly underdeveloped out there. And because there's a lot of farms out there, and that's the kind of development that you find out in that area. And so the kids, they gotta entertain themselves somehow, and so they make mom the butt of a few jokes, and no, it happened on April 1st, almost putting out a neon freaking sign for this woman, and she still doesn't catch on, and the neighbors do.
Yeah, but the girls look so frightened.
But when because they heard, this happened on April 1st. Oh, okay. Well, we'll come check it out anyway.
And the kids look terrified because they think they're going to get
distressed.
In trouble. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wow. Is this real?
Yeah.
Is it just a coincidence? Then it's a
and
coincidence
then it just snowballs.
It happened.
It keeps snowballing.
And it just keeps getting larger.
Yeah.
And the big bogey ball just keeps rolling down the hill and getting bigger.
So I wonder if sometimes we get people who, as a joke, go out and do Bigfoot calls because they know there's some researcher out there, and they'll go out there and go, make those noises. Like that. Oh, you just woke Lloyd up.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Let sleeping cats lie.
It's glaring at you right now. Anyway.
If you had your earbuds in, I'm sorry for blowing your ears.
But, there you go. They go out there and make the noise because they know their friends out there finding Bigfoot. And all of a sudden, it's considered a credible thing. Well, do you come forward and say, no, I was trying to pull a joke on my friend? All of a sudden, you're caught up in this thing. Do you really want to say anything?
Exactly. You want to be made a fool. And how does every conversation we have turn around decrepit?
I don't know. But just for an example, for a modern one, And, are you going to come up and say it? And then after a while,
you're going to admit that.
When you do come out and admit it, people aren't going to believe you.
Exactly. You've already convinced people that, what you're talking to is a spirit.
Yeah.
That you're talking to the spirit of their dead grandmother or their uncle or something.
I just think the girls got caught up in it.
You're asking, exactly. Yeah. You're asking that spirit, hey, where did you hide the gold underneath your stairs? Come on, man, cough it up.
Sorry, I'm thinking
some pressing concerns.
I'm thinking about good omens.
Those are the pressing concerns that I would have. I would come up to the Fox sisters with, knock 3 times with it. If I get it right.
The scene in Good Omens. I don't want to say anything. Go watch. Watch the Amazon Prime when Azrael has to take over the medium's body, and she's a very old type of spiritualist. The seance and everything, and lovely Miranda Richardson, wonderful job. And Azrael takes over her body, and he goes, "Wait a minute, someone doesn't want to speak to you." And the ghost of that one woman's husband does take over, and he probably gets it worded edgewise. It was the best. It was the best. And wasn't that lovely?
Oh, wow.
Anyway, we do have to cut this off. It's pretty close to an hour now. But there was the Fox Sisters. Welcome to Season 3.
Yes, welcome, and thank you for listening to our Ghastly podcast.
Remember, we have a Patreon. We've got a little bit of a Facebook thing going on, too. You can find us on almost every platform. Our distributor has actually expanded out to a few more that we're going to be approved to, so you can find us more places.
Absolutely.
We also post these up on YouTube, and they're just audio, but so there are plenty of places to hear this. If you want to shoot us some money, we still do things on Patreon. We don't have much activity over there, but we still put stuff on Patreon because one of these days we will.
Absolutely.
And that's the way I look at it. And producer Lloyd is now back to sleep, so I think it's a good time to say Good night.
All right. Or good night, good day, wherever you are, at
Yes.
whatever time you're listening to this.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Mari and Matt Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Mari Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.